Well, hey there guys, I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaDungeon.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. And it's been a while. I've been not doing mailbags leading up to Skyward Sword's release, and well, I've been playing the game, mainly because I can't answer questions about a game that I know nothing about yet, and that no one knows nothing about. I can't even research this stuff. So, this is the first mailbag in a little while. Since I haven't been, prompting you guys to send me questions, especially since the game is released, there wasn't a ton of questions to choose from, so I covered most of the Skyward Sword questions that were post-release, and but there's a couple ones in here that aren't Skyward Sword related. I'm getting to those first. So our first question is from CornGP47. A few mailbags ago you said Majora's Mask was a side game rather than an actual game. Why is that, in your opinion? Well, it is an actual game. No one's saying it isn't, and no one is even saying it isn't a major release. It was a major release in the series, but that doesn't mean that the storyline-wise it wasn't a side game, which it was in every conceivable way. The storyline did not seriously impact anything in the Zelda universe in actuality, and it involved mostly, other than a flashback with Zelda, and of course the fact that it was a Link carried over from another game, it had none of the major characters of the series, and in fact had new ones or new alternate versions of them. And this is even strongly supported by the Wind Waker, which indicates that after Link left left his time, that is, went to freaking Termina, he never came back, and Ganon came back, and no one was around to stop him. So clearly, Link was removed from the main story. He went off to the side in the most literal way. And additionally, if that's still not enough, Majora's Mask, its original title, Zelda Gaiden or whatever, Gaiden means side story. So the original title of the game was Zelda Side Story. So there's really no arguing. It is a side story according to any definition of the term. That doesn't mean it isn't canonical, because it clearly is. It doesn't mean it isn't a serious game, because it clearly is. It just means that the story is off on the side. Carlbot asks, what's your favorite boss in Skyward Sword? I haven't quite beaten the game yet. I'm really close, definitely close enough to start answering questions, but I think, at this point, I think really, the first two bosses or so are the ones that really did it the most for me. I mean, Ghirahim, the first battle, I'm assuming the later fights against him are going to be even cooler, but the first battle was really fun, and I also really liked Skaldera and even Moldarak. I think those are the first three bosses are some of the best so far. The fourth boss, which is Koloktos, is really cool, but I didn't actually think he was the funnest of all the battles necessarily, but certainly great in concept. And since then, the bosses have been not quite as exciting, so I'd say the early three bosses are definitely the funnest, and I can't say I can completely decide between them yet. Just be sure to tell me your guys' favorite bosses in the comments. Din Akira asks, what's your favorite motion command in Skyward Sword thus far? Example, pulling the Skyward Sword out of the pedestal. I can't say I've been too crazy about any of the specific motions so far, because I've just been none of the control concepts have really blown me away. I've just found the controls in general to be very fun. But, so I'd say that in general, I just like the Skyward Sword controls, all of them in general, as opposed to liking a specific moment so much. But if I had to pick, it actually wouldn't be the pedestal, because I actually struggled to figure out what I was supposed to do there. I think the command prompts could have been handled better. So I think I'd actually pick the harp, because I think that they handled that really well, how your controls really translate to directly controlling the harp and the music it makes. And it sounds really cool, and you really have full control over how it does sound. So I think it's just really fun to play. I think just, of all the Zelda instruments, that's one of the funnest ones to just play right there with no purpose and just experiment with. I think I just have kind of a lot of fun doing that. Silver Rupee asks, what is your opinion on the magic meter, and are you disappointed that it didn't make a return in Skyward Sword? Also, if it were to return in a future game, do you suppose we'd see the same trio of arrows along with some magic armor to do? Or do you think Nintendo would take it to the next level with something like Elder Scrolls type magic? Well, I am a little disappointed that the magic meter hasn't reappeared again, because it's something I've wanted to come back. There's no reason that magic hasn't been seriously involved in the series, in my opinion. But at the same time, Skyward Sword really kind of compensated by the fact that it gave you other limitations like the stamina meter and the shield meter, and they also added a lot of difficulty to the game that made it necessary for you to have to constantly use potions, constantly repair your shield and upgrade your defense and whatnot. They did what the magic meter is supposed to do, which make things harder and give you more resources to manage. So they did do that without the magic meter. That said, I think the magic meter is really an ideal concept for that kind of thing, and I really do want to see it again. I just think Skyward Sword did well without it. Probably better than any other recent Zelda game that lacked the magic meter. As that said, for what you were suggesting about using the same arrows, I don't necessarily want to see the arrows again, rather than them experimenting more with like what they could do with the magic. I don't think they're necessarily anytime soon gonna go the full way like you're suggesting, like what they do in Elder Scrolls, but I do suspect and would like them to go a little more in the direction of actual spells rather than items that have magical properties. I would like to see something a little more like they did in Zelda 2, or you know, to a lesser degree, Ocarina of Time, where they actually have magical spells. I say lesser degree in Ocarina of Time because Ocarina of Time actually had magical spells, but they were just items. Which may still be the best way to handle it no matter what, but I like the idea of actually possessing magic spells rather than just an item that uses magic. If it's a magical item, why does it consume magic? It'd be nice to actually collect spells and have a menu to go through that stuff. It'd be an interesting thing to have in Zelda again. Driorianos asks, so with my completion of the Skyward Sword storyline, I was thinking about Ghirahim. It became obvious he was offset to Fi, yet the more I thought about it, he's actually the antithesis to Link. In fact, they actually have the same goal, though with different targets. What do you think? Well, I think you're definitely technically right in that regard. That's what he's ended up as. I don't think that was intentional at all, nor do I think it's ultimately important. I think ultimately they're only like that because they are the two opposite rival enemy characters in the story who are currently, you know, after their specific goal. I mean, Link is trying to save Zelda. Ganondorf, wow, that's really weird. Ghirahim is actually trying to, you know, revive his master. So, you know, they both have their goals and they're running around to do them and they're clashing as they do so. They're an antithesis in that regard, but it's just a natural product of the game design as opposed to them actually intending that. That's how I see it anyway. Zelda Music Lover asks, do you think that the Ballad of the Goddess, the main theme of Skyward Sword, being a reversed version of Zelda's Lullaby, is like the Brothers Grimm idea of the changing of an idea over time in the sense of the pronunciation of words? Do you think that the Ballad of the Goddess evolved into Zelda's Lullaby in this way? Be right back. Wikipedia. You know, I'm not really sure how much Nintendo really intended that the Ballad of the Goddess's similarity to the Zelda's Lullaby is supposed to actually be important in the game world. I'm not exactly convinced that they really intended that the Ballad of the Goddess actually became Zelda's Lullaby in that way, that it was played and played until it somehow people changed it and reversed it. I really think it's just a music cameo, and actually I believe Zelda's Lullaby in some form does play in Skyward Sword, not like a character knows the song, but it actually just plays in the soundtrack. And not that that really influences the plot, I'm just saying, I really think this is just a musical cameo, and I think that they like Koji Kondo actually talked about this, throwing in nods to older Zelda songs without actually fully having the song in the game. Kind of like how the bamboo cutting minigame theme, the actual theme for playing the game, is basically the minigame theme from Link to the Past. I think it's just stuff like that. I don't think it actually has any importance within the game world. Juicy J asks, would you say Skyward Sword has become the new best game in the series? Has it become your new favorite over Majora's Mask? I would say absolutely not. It is not the best game in the series. I can't say that when the game's like, you know, there's other games in the series that don't possess nearly as many glaring flaws as the game. Skyward Sword carries on the tradition from Twilight Princess in that it has a lot of little mistakes that do slightly detract from the experience. As for your second part of your question, where you ask, if it is, do I like it better than Majora's Mask? Is it my new favorite game? Absolutely. I've actually had enough fun with it despite its flaws that it has definitely become my favorite Zelda game. And you're probably going to hear me complain for a while over the next few days over some of the weird little mistakes they made that really shouldn't have been there because there was no excuse for them to skip over that and miss that. But at the same time, what it does so well that it is actually just an incredibly fun game and a great experience. So, yeah, it is my new favorite game, but it's not the best game. It's preference versus actual quality of the construction. And our last question is from Cookerville Pop 101. I have heard that fans say Skyward Sword is even better than Ocarina of Time. In your honest opinion, what do you think? I do not think so, for the reasons I've just stated. Ocarina of Time is, in the Zelda series, it's the most balanced experience of the Zelda series and of a lot of video games in general because it's really just, it's a game built that can appeal to just about anyone. And in that way, it's just the most far-reaching, well-rounded, well-designed experience, again, within the Zelda series, but probably almost entirely within the video game industry as a whole. So, to say that Skyward Sword, which is a more, like, specific experience that doesn't necessarily appeal to every single person, and also has all these flaws, which Ocarina of Time didn't exactly have, it might be maybe more exciting, but it does not do what it does, which may be more exciting, as you know, solidly as Ocarina of Time did. So I don't think I can say it's better than Ocarina of Time. I think it's really hard to be better than Ocarina of Time, but I do personally find it way more exciting and way more entertaining than Ocarina of Time. So it is absolutely my favorite game. Maybe that should just mean it's better. I don't know, but that's not how I would define it. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send your questions, preferably about Skyward Sword, to the contact page in the description, and I'll see you guys later.